Hey, this is Squeeze. Here talking about an update to my Tendrils build and also converting it into something that's somewhat league startable. We are playing Lightning Tendrils of Eccentricity, and there are some changes. Obviously, we lost our Mercenary. Mercenary being something that basically 5x star damage on this build. Well, at least a variant of this build. It's gone, right? We have to do penetration now. We don't get lucky damage for free. So we have to adapt. And I think I got this to a point, it was a level 94 tree that I'm relatively satisfied with for a league start scenario. Let's talk about it. Big warning here. There are a couple of unknowns going on here. There are three main ones. I don't know how expensive Coiling Whisper is going to be, Dusk Rings are going to be, or Bladefall of Troarthus. Bladefall is probably going to be relatively accessible. I don't think they would make it super rare. Coiling Whisper is a different story. People were abusing this ring, and I wouldn't be surprised if it got a lot rarer, but you never know. Dusk Rings, last league they were pretty expensive, at least relatively speaking. So yeah, you're gonna need 5 of these so that you can 5-to-1 them at a vendor and craft them. Because if you didn't know, if you take Dusk Rings, you 5-to-1 them at a vendor, it gives you a craftable base. You can then split that base and craft on it all you want. So do bear that in mind. Dusk Rings, pretty important for the reduced skill effect duration. I'm not anointing the skill effect duration node here. I might consider doing that instead of Heart of Thunder, just for consistency's sake, but we'll see. Okay, with the warning out of the way, let's talk about the tree. We are playing Low Life. I have a bunch of these jewels that are literally just energy shield and attributes. You can definitely get better jewels. I have no primordial jewels here, except for these clusters, which are 1-prop clusters, so make of that what you will. Crit nodes. We take 1 ES leech there. Our golem commander. Obviously, we're Elementalist with the golem nodes, Shaper of Winter, and then going to Heart of Destruction here. Since we care about pen again, and exposure becomes a lot more valuable. So we have an exposure implicit on our gloves for that. So cool. Reduced mana cost of skills. Now, we are playing with Coiling Whisper, meaning we have 45 Soul Eater stacks, especially against bosses. It's up all the time. It is a 23.39 cast rate, meaning we drain a lot of mana. If you can get reduced mana cost anywhere, it's usually worth picking up, just so that you can actually hold the button down. So I have it here. It also gives us mana regen per block, which is very valuable. Over here, I'm taking Light Radius because I don't like how everything turns dark when you are low life. It's 1 point. If you don't mind it, you can spend it somewhere else. Cool. Attack block here. The big thing is to get attack block capped. I'm using a Replica Reckless Defense. It does not need to be max roll. You can get a 5 attack block one and min rolled spell block for like a cup, maybe 20 to 30 chaos, something like that. I'm sure they're going to be plentiful, so don't worry about that. Convert to life cost. I am also taking Eternal Youth so that I can just recharge my life. It gives me basically all the sustain on that I need. Zealot's Oath for the ES regen. We're able to sustain our RF of Arcane Devotion. I think there's a world you can sustain regular RF and you'd get more damage out of it. But I don't have it here, so If you can figure out a way to do it, cool. Runegraph to the Fortress. These are not usually that expensive. At least they weren't last league, so pick it up if you can afford the attributes. It's just more defenses. We're looking at like 40k armor, 7k ES on this variant of the build. Pretty tanky, all things considered. So, Divine Shield. Obviously, we have a lot of armor. We're armor ES. Divine Shield is a no-brainer. These nodes are great. Recover ES on Fizz damage hit. Yep. You see all this. You love it. Cool. I have swapped out Aegis. I've swapped out Aegis for Prism Guardian. Just because it's usually cheaper than Aegis. If you can get Aegis, it's better. You'll have to swap your auras around a little bit because you need to account for the loss of reservation efficiency. But it's just better. So if you can find one, pick it up. I got a good wand. It's a 4-stat wand here. +1, some spell damage, some flat damage, some crafted cast speed. You can probably get a wand similar to this relatively cheaply. Let's see, what's next? We have a hat with some pen and chaos res and defenses. Same thing with the chainmail is just from the older build. You can just hit some dense fossils, eldritch currency, craft the rest. You know, craft your gear. This gloves become a lot more important after you lose out on the Mercenary, because you need lightning exposure, and it gives you Unnerve without needing to get Awakened Controlled Destruction to level 5. So the implicits become a lot more important here. A quick note on the boots. These were from the old build. They are ailment avoidance boots with Storm Shroud. If you do not have a Storm Shroud, just use any other pair of boots. It's fine. You have Tempest Shield giving you shock avoidance and Arctic Armor giving you freeze avoidance. You don't need this until you have a Storm Shroud. But when you do have a Storm Shroud, these become really good because then you're immune to all elemental ailments, not just shock and freeze. So, here are the two unknowns. The Dusk Ring, Coiling Whisper, we already talked about. Just a regular Stygian Vice with life, I guess. You don't really need the life. It's just Chaos Res and Energy Shield, and then Flask Charge is gained. Since we are playing the Trader, Flask Charge is gained is a good stat to have, so get it. Chaos Res, Energy Shield, Lightning Damage. Cool. We're playing Eccentricity. Lightning Tendrils of Eccentricity is a variant of Lightning Tendrils that has a stronger pulse every 5 pulses, and they always crit. And they crit with more damage and more area of effect. Now, part of me was thinking about going for the Herald stuff with Lycia on that bloodline, but effectiveness of added damage is 60%, and Heralds give added damage, at least lightning and cold Heralds do, so not worth, basically. Here we have our Lightning Pen, Arcane Surge. I have a 6-link here. You can take out crit damage and you would only lose maybe 25% of your damage. So if you're on a 5-link, just take out crit damage. The others are more important. Here are 4 golems, Flamestone, Safeguarding, and Lightning. Lightning is essential, obviously. I mean, all these are essential. So here's just your 4 golem setup. Here's our shield auras. Since we are Prism Guardian, I'm putting my 50% in there with Tempest Shield. Once you swap out Prism Guardian, you're going to change out your auras, so don't worry about that. A helmet has Arctic Armor, Flesh and Stone, Purity of Fire, and Discipline. Flesh and Stone is always in Sand Stance, giving us a lot of tank. Arctic Armor, for when we're channeling, we reduce Fizz and Fire damage taken from hits. And we get Freeze Immunity, which is really nice. Especially since we are not ailment immune yet. Discipline gives us Energy Shield. The only thing is, there might be a better 35% aura than Purity of Fire. I'm just putting it on because we're running our RF. We don't need it on though. Like if I take it off, we're still net 350 regen. So this is the most unnecessary of the auras. You can definitely put on something better and go to town on it. Just find another good 35% aura if you want. Frostblink of Wintry Blast, Sigil of Power, RF of Arcane Devotion. I'm using Wintry Blast because it is a high cast speed build. This thing with cast speed, you are blasting all over the map. So, cool. This gives you a lot of added damage against bosses. Take it. It also gives you enemies in area deal less damage at max stages. So, more tank, more damage against bosses, no-brainer. We are spending a ton of mana, so it's basically always going to be fully charged against bosses when you have it down. Arcane Devotion gives you cast speed and a more multiplier. So that's about 25% of your damage. Swapping it for regular Righteous Fire, if I just make that change, is more damage, but ES recovery is in the shitter. So, I'm choosing to go with Arcane Devotion. If you can find a way to cover the regen of regular RF, it's better. Do it. But I don't think it's worth the amount of investment. So, and then our four-link Bladefall of Charthus setup. This is going to be where Coiling Whisper shines. We are taking Bladefall of Charthus at level 1, just so we don't have to put that much into attributes. We are running a level 1 Hex Touch and Temp Chains. So we get the shortest duration curse possible. We are putting less duration on there. This gives us a curse that is lasting less than a second at a default value. And then we are taking our Dusk Ring and potentially Anointing Window of Opportunity to reduce the duration even lower. That will allow us to basically get Soul Eater stacks off of the curse expiring and giving us a load of damage. Here's our config. Since we're channeling, time spent stationary goes to 1. We're always low life. Arcane Surge is always on because we're playing with Arcane Surge support. Convergence, yeah, this is just against a boss. I'm assuming a 40% shock. It might be higher. It's probably going to be higher against Pinnacles since we're at this amount of damage, but I just have it to 40 just as a safe underestimation. Lightning Exposure on Nerve. Infusion. We can reduce this to 0 to see our mapping relative DPS, but I'll just put it to 3, whatever. Sand Stance, and then nothing on the boss. No custom modifiers, all that stuff. Cool. Let's talk about some potential upgrades to the build you can make. If you swap some of these jewels out for Grand Spectrums, and you get 1 Grand Spectrum with minimum endurance charges, so that you get 3 minimum endurance charges out of that. If I even just click endurance charges, you get a lot more tankiness out of it. Frenzies give you more damage, obviously, but those are like a billion divines. So if you can afford to get endurance charges, you should probably go do it. I also have, if you are able to pick up a Ravenous Passion, you should. The problem is, this is an Uber boss drop, so it's not really league start viable, but later on in the league, they are pretty cheap, so I would grab one. And then I would honestly grab a bunch of them and then try to corrupt for 90% cost and reservation. You can put your auras there after that. Pretty good. Obviously, Aurora, or Aegis Aurora is going to be better here than Prism Guardian. Get it if you can get it. Yeah. I don't know if the Primordial Jewels are actually worth getting. I'm going to be honest. Like, Primordial Eminence is good. Is it that good? Not really. I would say it might be worth just ignoring them and getting regular jewels. Like you can get a Watcher's Eye with penetration on Wrath. It's just a lot better. You can get, Flesh Flame if you really wanted to for, I don't know, Vile Bastion maybe. Granted, that's going to be like insanely expensive, but you know what I mean. Like, there's just better jewel options, I think, than primordial jewels. So don't get baited into them. Cool. I think that's everything. Let me know if you have any questions and if I made any mistakes in the comments below.